Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest on this occasion is Dr. Kwaku L. Carlisle Woods, and he has a number of letters behind his name. So RN, and then you are a doctor.
MD.
And then you have another
Metaphysician.
Metaphysician. Okay. So the good thing about that is that you marry doctor with metaphysician, and I'm absolutely certain that there's a holistic component to what you do, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get to that, welcome to the show.
I feel welcomed.
All right, and this is not your first time in the studio.
No, it isn't, but it feels not just new, it feels welcoming new.
All right, well, that's good feedback. We're glad that you see it that way. So again, welcome to the show. Got a lot to cover, and we probably don't have enough time to hear all the things that you can share with us. But why don't we start with your connection with the wonderful world of medicine?
Okay, hold on. Before we do that, I got to spend 3.5 minutes on me.
Okay.
And then 6.5 minutes on you. My grandmama told me, she said, boy, she called me boy, you see. I got 9 sisters, so whenever she said boy, everybody knew she was talking to me. Boy, before you listen to anybody tell you anything that you're going to be using for your own betterment, you first need to ask yourself, just who is that sucker and why should they know something that'll benefit me? So my first job is to tell you, just who is that sucker and why you should know something that'll benefit you. I'm strange. Not sexually strange, that's what I'm talking about. I'm a strange human being, and I was a strange human being before I was born. My mother's father, my grandfather, who was a bishop in the Church of the Living God, and what we call in those days a root doctor, we would call him an herbalist these days, came to her when she was 7 months pregnant with me and put his hand on her abdomen and said, Lizzie, after 7 girls, this one's a boy, and he's going to be strange. Anybody here ever heard of a veiled child? It's also known as being born with the caul. It refers to an infant who's born with a layer of tissue over their face. And it's supposed to mark someone who has special gifts, can tell the future, talk to ghosts, you know, yada, yada, yada. I was one of those. So as soon as I came here with this penis and that veil, my whole family said, like Papa said, he's a boy. Ooh, and he's strange. That's not the end. Second thing, I am a genius. Not a brag, not a boast. This is a fact, Jack. At the age of 5, when I started school in St. Louis, Missouri, St. Louis had just started giving IQ tests to all incoming students. And my IQ test caused 3 pink men to come to my house in the ghettos of St. Louis and scared the hell out of my family. Because 3 pink men did not come to your home in the ghettos of St. Louis unless you were behind on your insurance payments or you was going to jail. My mother was only slightly mollified to find out that they were from the Board of Education. They had originally come to see how I had cheated on the IQ test because they had never heard of anyone who got them almost all correct. But before they got to my house, they went to the school that I just started, field school over on Olive, and talked to the teachers there. And the teachers there told them, no, he didn't cheat. That's just Larry. He's strange. And when we don't have anything else to do, we'll just make up tests and give it to him just to see what he'll do. And they showed them some of the tests that they just made up and gave to me. And so the 3 pink men said, oh, wow, he didn't cheat? He's really that smart? And they said, yeah, he's strange. So they'd come to my house to offer my mother a special education for me, which she, being a very wise woman, turned down and said, no, he's going to go to regular school just like all my regular children, which I did until I was 15. And then I stopped and said I wasn't going to go back to school again. My mother brought me back to school the next day, and she was shocked to find Mr. Reynolds, the assistant principal, who told her, he wants to quit school? Let him. Because we haven't taught him anything in quite some time, and quite frankly, he's disturbing the class. I was. So I quit school, took a GED and passed that, took a CLEP test for a year's worth of college and passed that, including a year's worth of foreign language I had never studied, Italian. But Miss Temple had been teaching me Latin for 2 years prior to that, so it was relatively easy to change Old Italian to New Italian. Last but not least, that was when I left the United States of America. That was my second time leaving the United States of America. We won't get into number one. We'll get into number two because I ended up moving to Southeast Asia. And that's where I actually grew up. That's why I speak Iliganong, I speak Tagalog, my Japanese is okay, it's not as good as my Korean. My Mandarin sucks! But it's better in my Twi, which I'm learning right now. I also speak Parlez-vous français? Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Spanish is the word that I could not remember that you told me.
Okay. So, Kwaku.
Yes, sir.
And Twi. The relationship between the two of them.
Okie dokie. I got to finish up and then I'll go to that.
Okay.
At 22, I came back to the United States of America, and it was at that time that the Most High told me to get some degrees. So I earned degrees, and I want to give them in order: music, nursing, biology with honors, psychology with honors at Webster University, medicine, University of Kentucky School of Medicine. I was president of the Student National Medical Association there, and Howard University internship and residency in family practice before I was medical director, well, really troubleshooting physician for the National Healthcare Fund, and then medical director of Intercounty Health and Medical Systems in Martinsburg, West Virginia, then medical director of Cicely Island Medical Center of Cicely Island, Louisiana, then vice president of primary care for the state of Louisiana, and was their representative to Congress, the Meese Commission hearings in the McCormick Center in Chicago. Now, Twi and me.
Yes. And that's quite a history, I will say. Yeah.
That's beginnings.
Yeah,
and that gives me some authority, some experience, some training. And what my wife and I figured out night before last was actually 4.3 million patients that we figured out between my private practice and working in the emergency room. I've been working in the emergency room since 1971. In my private practice with all of those medical directorships, I saw about 30, 35 patients every day. Yeah, 4.3 million patients.
Okay, so Kwaku and Twi.
Twi, me and Twi. Twi is the language that is primarily spoken in Ghana. For some strange reason, and I think it was Dr. David Whitaker's Ashe Cultural Center, and a young lady whose name is Michelle Ruffin. Shelley, still love you. Michelle, I met when I was, believe it or not, going through Veterans Addiction Recovery Program out in Brecksville at the VA center out there. And Michelle was into Afrocentric life. And she wanted to go to this rites of passage class that was being taught at the Ashe Cultural Center. We both went there as soon as we got out of Veterans Addiction Recovery, and we'll go into that at some point if you want to. And I met David Whitaker and my business partner and best friend, McKinley Tate III. McKinley Tate III was a engineer. He was training to be a music engineer and was recording and producing music. Since I'd been playing music most of my life and have been recording professionally since I've been about maybe 12 or 13, he asked me to help him form a record label called Global Entertainment. We also formed another entity called Global Records that actually made records. But at that point, David introduced us to what Nana Alkebulanese of Ghana had said was the responsibility of the government of Ghana for its participation in the Atlantic slave trade. She said the government of Ghana needs to sponsor programs that taught the descendants of those transatlantic slaves their history, their being, and their own understanding of themselves. David, actually, his program was a year. And we entered the program, Shelley, me, and Mick. We entered the program, and about 9 months into the program, everybody had dropped out but us. We started out with about 15, 20 people. Everybody dropped out except us 3. So Kwa said, hold on, y'all. I'm going to stop this class. I'm going to do another class, and y'all are going to be the first people to enroll in the second class. So it actually took 2 years for us to go through the rites of passage program that normally takes a year. As a result, Chief Kojo Ajuakwai IV, who was a chief over in Accra,
Aton Kwa and Accra,
right,
yes. Mm-hmm.
came to talk to us twice. All of the classes and the presentations that normally made up Kwa David's rites of passage, we went through twice. And we ended up traveling down to Washington, D.C. for several programs in which we met Nana Botwa. Nana Botwa is the inheritor of the stool that Nana Akua Operabia vacated when she went to Y.O.U. That's when she died, but we don't say that. She went to Y.O.U, into the other reality. Okay, as Nana Botwe learned about me and my abilities, she said, okay, well, you need to go to Ghana. You need to go to the shrine there, the Nana Surgery Shrine, where Akua Operabia helped the first president of Ghana through spiritual problems. So I went. Me and Mick. Mick's mother had been involved in rites of passage and learning the Akan spirituality. Akan, word y'all need to investigate. The Akan were a group of spiritual beings that first were on the east side of Alkebulan, the place that most people refer to as Africa. That's not the name that the people who lived there called it. It was called Alkebulan. And the Akan were all the way over on the east side in a place that the inhabitants called Kemet. Again, Europeans call it Egypt. And the Akans taught Egyptians spirituality. The Egyptians taught the Hebrew, who later were termed Hebrew, who taught the rest of the world that same spirituality. The Akan became somewhat discouraged with all the European entrees into Kemet, and they started going west. I got a map that Dr. Malana gave me when I was in my last trip to Ghana that shows the course of their travels and the times that they left this particular location, moved to this location, all the way to the west side of Alkebulan, where they now reside in Ghana.
Okay. I want to pivot real quickly and just mention that you have been installed as a chief. Could you talk about that experience?
Okay. The last time, November 22nd of 2023, my best friend and business partner, McKinley Tate III, called me and told me, man, I'm going to go back to Ghana with my wife. I said, huh? That's amazing. I think I should go with my wife. So I immediately, and I mean like that same night, called Nana Botwe and told her that I was taking my wife to Ghana with Mick and his wife. She says, okay, you need this much money and you need this much passport and you need a visa for this and so forth and so on. And I immediately started jumping on it. Now, because I have been traveling this planet since I was a teenager, I'm very, very well versed at doing that. My wife needed some practice, so she was set to practicing all the things that we would need and all the changes we would have to make in order to make this trip to Ghana. Before I asked my wife and before I told Nana Botwe that I was going, I first asked the Most High, should I go? And the Most High said, but you're going to be having some challenges that are going to be rather severe, and you're going to have to rise above those challenges in order to make this happen. I said, okay, I can do that. So now we're back down to about December 14th. We're getting our passports and visa together, and I am coming downtown to my credit union, police credit union in Cleveland, and suddenly I am involved in a broadside accident by a woman whose brand new 2024 car, luxury car, again, not even a month old, smashed in my car and totally totaled my car and smashed me into a lamppost. I ended up going to the hospital, and to make this long story very short, I ended up with 2 back surgeries. The first back surgery took 7.5 hours. I'm laying on my stomach for 7.5 hours while these men are putting rods in my spine. About 2 weeks after this initial hospitalization, my wife is reminding me, because we just come back from walking down the street. I had to walk every day to retrain the muscles to do that. She said, remember, sweetheart, they told you not to bend over. They want you to stand up straight. So I stood up straight. And as soon as I did that, you heard, pop! And my wife heard it across the room and said, what's that? It was one of the rods they put into my spine popping. There was pain that shot down my leg. My whole left side was paralyzed below the waist. And again, to make this long story very short, we ended up going back for another 3.5 hours of surgery while they replaced this rod and put another one in there. After that, I go back to my workouts and stuff and so forth and so on. I'm really kind of I'm an athletic nerd, and believe it or not, I used to play point guard for the Spirits of St. Louis in the ABA before they joined the NBA, until a guy named Maurice Lucas broke my zygoma. My face is still cracked where his knee broke my face. He went on to invent the position of power forward for a team called the Los Angeles Lakers, and they won a couple of championships.
Emphasis on the word power, huh?
Yeah, power.
Okay.
Yeah, well, he created, there wasn't anything called a power forward until he became a forward, and suddenly he was a power forward. Yeah. That was some of the things that I had to get past in order to get right so that I could go to Ghana with my wife. Nana Botwe was somewhat surprised, and she said so, that I just didn't say that I was going. I paid her several $1,000s right up front. I got my passport and visa all squared away within 2 weeks, and she was saying, wow, nobody does. Yeah, I do. We do. My wife and I do. And our company, Prometheus Reborn Universal Foundation, paid for us, assisted in my business partner, and another young lady in going there. We all ended up on the same plane, going down the same highway in the sky to arrive in Accra, Ghana on January the 2nd, 2024. You want anything else from that, or are we going to go someplace else?
We're going to have to go somewhere else.
Let's go
because
someplace
we
else.
have a few more moments left in the show. But I just wanted to shine a light on the fact that, after receiving the name Kwaku, you ascended to a position called chief. And I would think that perhaps the manner in which you addressed going to Ghana and being so expeditious and whatnot inspired them to look at your potential and think that perhaps we need to do something so that we can get the benefit of his energy and his expertise, and of course being the genius. So we do have like maybe 7 minutes or so. I want to switch gears and talk about medicine, as you are a doctor. You have been involved in the allopathic methodology, but now you have this metaphysical label as well. Can you talk about the benefit of the holistic approach and metaphysics as they relate to promoting healing?
Absolutely. I told you I was going to spend 3.5 minutes on me, and I was going to spend the rest of the time on you. And that's what I mean. Y-O-U. That means your own understanding. Unfortunately, no human being that I found has their own understanding. Let me explain. Everything that I'm going to say, you already know. Everything I'm going to tell you is already in your mind. It's in a part of your mind called the limbic system. That's where knowing is. Knowing is emotional, spiritual. That means that you feel an emotion about what you know. It's often confused with understanding. That happens in a totally different part of your brain. Right up under your skull, you got the surface of the brain, and you got a little wrinkle right here called the frontal gyrus, and right in front of that is where you understand at. Understanding is not emotional, spiritual. Understanding is intellectual. It involves thinking. I'm going to tell you things that you know, but you do not understand. For instance, you know that you are combined a material portion called a body, an immaterial portion called a spirit or soul, and a partially material, partially immaterial portion called a mind. You know that, right? Okay. How do they work? How do they coordinate their functioning? Who's in charge? Who tells who what to do? And how do they do that? I'll wait. I could wait forever and nobody would ever tell me those things because nobody understands them. They're not being taught. They're not being taught in medical school. They're not being taught in college. They're not being taught in psychiatry or sociology. None of those things even attempt to deal with what your spirit does. Your spirit basically does 3 things. It enables, it protects, and it visualizes. Anytime you close your eyes and daydream or visualize something, that's not your mind. We've been looking for an engram in the human mind for about 3 decades. Haven't found it because it doesn't exist there. That's part of your spirit. Your spirit's job is to trigger your mind with images. Your spirit comes up with images and triggers your mind, and your mind takes those images and compares them and measures them and evaluates them and judges them, what a mind does, and then tells your body what to do about the meaning that it has derived from the images that the spirit gave it. Sound familiar? It should. That's how you work, and nobody's going to tell you that but me. I came up with something called the trivalent understanding noetics. Noetic science is the science of faith, belief, and intention. It is not religious. It is the basis on which all religions are founded. How does your faith function? How does your will work? How do you take what you desire and turn that into your everyday living experience? That's what noetic science is about. And I'm a member of the Institute of Noetic Science, or at least I was last time I paid my dues. I came up with something called the trivalent understanding noetics that teaches you how your spirit functions and how to make it function on a higher level of effectiveness. This is not things that take a practice approach. We can change how you function from the top of your head to the bottom of your foot in 133 seconds. Don't believe me? Ask Norma. Because I just explained to her and demonstrated to her a technique called vector augmentation, and it totally and completely changed. I got to get the right leg because it only changed. All we had time for was do half of her body, but it And she said, oh yeah, that's big difference. That's, yeah, in 133 seconds, it changes how you function. It also changes how you live your life. Once you understand how that living is organized, nobody teaches you. Nobody taught me. I went all through medical school wondering when somebody was going to say, okay, we talked about how the body works. Now, how does the mind and spirit function in coordination with that body? Because without that, you don't have a whole person. American Public Health Association wrote an article published in 2015 from Dr. Breeslau, who was a public health physician at UCLA. And Dr. Breeslau said, we need to find a new definition of health because we don't even know what the hell health is. We got all of these things that talk about health and healthy when we don't even define what it is. I wrote an answer to his question saying, I totally and completely understand and agree because, again, human beings for thousands of years have known that we're composed of three parts, but none of those three parts are generally indicated other than the body in any review of health.
Okay. So you've opened the door to a new methodology that people need to know about, and we don't really have time to fully dive into it. So
I understand.
I want to invite you to share with the viewing audience how they can connect with you and explore this new methodology.
Yes. Well, we're going to be doing some African American museum expositions in February. We're also going to be working out of Africa House starting the first Friday in March. But they can either go to our website, Prometheus Reborn Universal Foundation. They can give us a call at area code 216-375-2742. Or they could go to Global Entertainment or watch our podcast on Wednesdays on Facebook and YouTube.
All right. There you have it. Doc Woods, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir, my brother.
I might have to get that 133-second treatment. We'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I'm going to query Nomer and see how she's doing. I really appreciate you stopping by today. And it was a pleasure to serve jury duty, even though we didn't have to, serve. But it brought us together.
It did.
All right. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, my brother. And thank the ancestors that we are here to do this.
All right. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day. Peace.
Peace.